You are listening to the Earplug Podcast Network, a Fanboys Inc. production.
And we are live right here, right now. I am Louis Perry. That is that Wonder Woman, Jamie Dolan. We are on the road to Rhode Island Comic Con. Jamie, it's so exciting, isn't it?
So exciting. It's really coming up fast.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
we got a lot of things to do. And
I didn't even take the time off of work yet.
We can't even talk about it right now. That's what's so crazy about it. We got so much stuff to do, so much to say. We can't talk about it. And we still have guests piling up to promote and have more guests to talk about. But tonight, we are going to... Tonight. Wow. That was crazy. Tonight.
It was
yes.
Near
Aviva comes in and says that she got her tickets in the mail today.
What are you thinking about?
And Andre says, "What's up, party people? How's it going, Andre?" And Aviva comes back and says, "Good evening." So we had celebrities on last week. We're going to have celebrities on next week. We're going to have celebrities in the coming week. But this week, we're going to go to where it all started with comic book conventions, with comic books. We're going to bring in some people call me the fountain of useless information when it comes to comics and movies, but we're going to bring into somebody right now that rivals my keen intellect on comic books, the one and the only Tom Novak. But that's not all. We have a very special guest, someone near and dear to my heart. This cat can draw. He can write. He is a fantastic creator. The one and only my friend and your friend, Ian Chase Nichols. Big round of applause. And Ian, this is actually, you were on the Angry Geeks Angry Con, but this is actually your first. It was so hard to actually nail you down. We've been friends for many, many years. And oh, thank you so much, Aviva. I will let Rose know you said happy birthday. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure she does too. Thank you. You are so hard to nail down to actually be on an actual episode of the Angry Geeks. Every time we try to get you on, you had deadlines, you were behind, you had a project you were working on. So this is a monumental moment right now. And it's Scarlet Q5, and everyone's stealing your thunder. Scarlet says hi, guys, and happy birthday, Rose. Scarlet, I will let Rose know that you said happy birthday as well. So Ian, you first of all, thank you for being on.
Happy to be here, man. We've been friends for a long time, trying to get this to work out. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I know, for like almost over 7 years, almost 8 years. Tom, you collecting comics almost as long as me. What was the first
30
comic?
some odd years.
Yes, I know. What was the first comic book you ever picked up?
I think it was either an X-Men Nope. It was X-Men #1, Jim Lee, Chris Claremont from 1990. The other one was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures book with the big giant Godzilla-esque samurai dragon and the big giant robot foot soldier, separated by the Statue of Liberty. Those two books.
And that's what got you hooked.
Oh yeah.
Really, Ian? What made you decide to become a creator? What got you with the bug? What made you say this is what I want to do?
I mean, when I first started out, as a kid, everybody most kids like to draw. And, for a lot of people, it's just a passing thing that they really, just do to pass the time. But for me, it just it was the thing that I always wanted to do. And, at a young age, I started checking out comics, and, it just sort of became a thing where as I got to read comics, you see that there's a credit section and you see that human beings made these, and, maybe they get to do this all the time or something. And you start to read and look into it and draw more, and that's just kind of the start of it for me, at least. And when you said X-Men Classic, Tom, that was very close, because that was like my second comic was an issue of X-Men Classic. So that series of reprints is very near and dear to myself as well.
Well, I think I love that series because, I mean, if you weren't fortunate enough or old enough, God, I'm dating myself, to actually have those books in your collection or be there when they came out, those X-Men Classics, those were the ones that, I mean, they retold the Byrne and Claremont stuff. They told so much good stories that it was just like the Marvel Tales with the old Spidey stuff. They came back and they were they were a reprint, not in the Captain America vein where they started telling you a story and then the retelling of the story became the reprint. They were actually reprints, but they were done so well, and you just couldn't get enough of them.
Well, it's ironic that, series goes back and relies on reprints in two separate mindsets that in turn boosts its longevity. I mean, X-Men almost got canceled when it was ordered to go into reprints because of lack of interest back in the early 70s. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, they reprinted the stuff so they could, make deadline and drop books to the spinner rack on time. They put an extra couple of bits of story in there or art to supplement the story itself. I mean, Claremont was synonymous for doing that. And you think about it, reprints help that title, again, 2 times. And when do you hear that happen in a major comic? It's unheard of.
So true. So true. Ian, Rhode Island Comic Con is coming up, and you are a cornerstone at all alternate reality entertainment events. Do you want to talk about your position with that company? And we all know what the Angry Geeks do. Tom, we're going to get to you and your position there, but Ian, What is your position there? What do you do? Your name is on all of their stuff.
Like everybody that works for the company, you have to have sort of like a Swiss Army mentality. Like you do what's needed to get done, and
Correct.
I do graphic design, I do artwork. When we publish our own comic books, I'll be the editor of the Altered Reality Comics line. I help coordinate the variant covers. I help coordinate the art talent that comes in. I basically helping out in any way possible, support-wise, on the non-celebrity side of things, whether it's comics or vendors or artists or whatever. I help out that section of the event.
Okay, so now with the artist, what's your dream artist to have at one of the ARE shows?
Dream artist. That's a good question.
We're allowed to pull people back from the dead.
Yes, that would be.
If we were able to pull people back from the dead, we all know who I would love to have a guest there that I could be on stage with. Even though Tom didn't know his voice right away. But let's go. If we could pull one person from the past and two people from the current. There you go.
I only got to meet her once, and she's getting up there, and I would love to see her again. Would be Ramona Fraden. She's a Silver Age artist who was a groundbreaking talent at DC, the co-creator of Metamorpho and Aqualad, and she just, the crazy thing about it, she did a ton of Aquaman comics, but her very first cover ever of Aquaman was the recent anniversary issue, that she just did, and it's just amazing to me. And she's still doing quality work, and she's, the one time I met her, she was a very, very nice person. So that would be my one person who is still producing work today. And I would say out of the folks that have passed away, I never got to meet Kirby. That would be pretty good. I mean, that would be.
I think Kirby's on everyone's wish list.
Because on top of that, as much as he'd love to meet, some folks like Toth or whatever, you also hear that Kirby was the nicest guy in the world. So I've never heard someone who met him at San Diego and said they didn't come away saying it was exactly what they had hoped it would be, meeting that person. So on top of the giant work.
Tom, yours.
All right. So people who have passed: Kirby, Dave Cockrum, Len Wein.
Oh, okay.
Living, if he's watching or if people who know him are paying attention to this, Adam Kubert, we would love to have you. Again, Adam or Andy Kubert, we would love to have you. Even Emma Kubert, who has done some awesome work for Image Comics, we would love to have you.
Okay. And Uncle Joe is chiming in, and Uncle Joe says Sal Buscema, John Byrne, and Barry Windsor Smith. Oh, I would love to sit down and chat with John just about the Big Red S himself. Jamie, any artists?
To Ezekiel Sosa from Paraguay, who is watching us.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Ezekiel.
Cool.
Yes, Ezekiel, thank you for stopping in again. I'm so sorry about that. I didn't see that. And Jamie, we have another comment from Andre. Andre said his first comic was the Fabulous Furious Freak Brothers.
I haven't heard of that title in almost 30 some odd years. Wow.
Yeah. Awesome. And Michael J says Jim Henson. Wow. Yeah. Jim Henson. That would be pretty cool. Jamie, who would you like to see as an artist? Because Jamie, you guys don't know. Maybe you do. Jamie is one heck of an artist. I think she'll be a hell of a cover artist. Did you know that, Ian? Did you know that Jamie drew?
I talked about it in Colorado.
We did, yes. I got to see
I know we did. I want to do it for the audience.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Okay, Ian. Ian, did you know that Jamie drew?
I just found out about this recently at Colorado.
There you go. There is a difference, and Tom, you probably heard this, and I know Ian does. Between drawing covers and drawing comics is two different things. Ian, do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely, yes, 100%.
Okay, how would you differentiate the two?
I mean, with a cover, you have to boil down, or like you either have to distill the most important moment in a comic or create the most interest you can based on what the big reveal is or what the plot is or a character moment. You have to pick one moment. In a comic, you have to pace it out and tell an entire story over anywhere from 18 to, let's say, 72 pages for a giant issue or whatever. You have lots and lots of places where you have to, create the lines of action. You have to be, able to take either a plot or a story or a script, or if you're doing your own stuff, you have to be able to plan every reveal, plan the page turns, be able to go much, much further, like into a series of drawings, thus sequential storytelling.
Okay, and Andre says covers are fun, comics are tedious. Do you? Ian's laughing. Ian, do you agree with that?
Me personally, I don't. Like I find covers arduous, and I find them to be very stressful because you got one shot to get it right. You have one shot, and usually covers, at least the ones that I get hired to do, are needed in a very tight turnaround. And when you have 3 days at most to nail it, it's sometimes really stressful.
But at the same time, Ian, you have nailed it. Case in point, a couple of years back, you did a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles variant for us that also happened to be the first appearance of Jenica, that you round peg, round hole, perfection.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was but that was again another tight turnaround. And that was one that I had to draw while on vacation with the missus and get up super early while she was still asleep to work on it so it wouldn't mess up the vacation.
Well, it paid
Okay,
off.
now speaking of variant covers for the company, for ARE, what is in store? What are you bringing to the table for Rhode Island Comic Con? And I know you have some comics right in front of you. What are we bringing?
Yeah, I don't have the variants with me because, obviously some of them have not been released yet, but they will be there at the show. We do have Amanda Connor as one of the guests, and she was kind enough to. She's a phenomenal artist, one of the best in the business today. And she was kind enough to agree to do a cover for our own variant of The Boys #1. And it's got sort of like a Brady Bunch style graphic with all the main characters. And, she'll be there. And I believe she'll have a panel where you can, talk to her about it. And the other beautiful thing about it is because it's The Boys, there's a bunch of members of the cast, as that'll be there. So if you like to, get your media guests and your comics to mix together, you can do that with this one variant cover. And then we also have a Venom cover that's by Mike McCone that'll be there. And I did the Vampirella #25 variant that will be there as well.
Okay, now for sale, you're going to have the Red Sonja?
Yep, I did a Red Sonja cover for Colorado Springs, but I have copies now available that I'll have them at my table. And I'll have that. I'll have my Acts of Helena book. I did a book called Iron Face. With the Red Sox still in the playoffs, I've got some Wally comics that I can for the young folks, and all the usual stuff like Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, and my buddy Jeff McClellan will be there, who I collaborate on the Tick with, and we're working on new stuff for that now. He has a book called Planet Comics, which I have one right here that you can see.
All right, hold on one second.
Pretty cool. That cover's by Pietro, and there's stuff in there by myself, and just a bunch of really talented artists. Let's see here. Dwayne Redhead, another one of the Tick artists, did a story in there. He actually colored the story that I worked on. And it's science fiction. It's sort of like the old Planet comic series from the Golden Age continued with new stories. And there's essays and stories in the back of it. And it's a lot of fun. He's got a second issue that he just has coming out as well. And he's got more on the way. He's got the Iron Face.
Okay, I'm going to seriously get into some taboo right now, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, and Tom is probably gonna cringe. Can you crack open the book just a little bit without breaking the spine, so we can see some of the interior? Because that's what I'm afraid of. I don't want that spine to be broken, but I do want our audience to see the interior of some of these books. But I'm just worried about the spine. Look at that.
Big 2-page spread that I did.
And what book is it? This is Iron Face?
Planet Comic.
Planet Comic. Okay.
Yeah.
There was Look at that. I mean, that is fabulous. And you want to show Iron Face, your creation?
Yeah. And let's see, what's a good page that doesn't have a... I can show you the big splash. Where he's
There you
like
go.
coming right at, trying to do sort of a Kirby movement with the giant fist coming as he's running away from downtown.
That is just beautiful. Now, these books will be for sale at Ian's table. So make sure you go to Rhode Island Comic Con, get your tickets now, stop by Ian's table. And I tell you what, Jamie, what do you say? If he mentions the Angry Geeks, Ian will sign it with a free smile for answering that he heard it on the Angry Geeks. Is that good enough for you, Ian? Would you sign it with a free smile?
Absolutely, and I usually do free little remarks anyway. So if you mention the Angry Geeks, I'll make it a nice one.
There you go. All right, Jamie, you want to read this comment from Andre, please?
Yep. So Andre says, "How much has digital art changed the comic book industry, or would you rather it be done with traditional art?"
How has it changed it? I mean, it really changed. The big pivot, I would say, was when digital coloring really took over, and then like the digital print production techniques came in, where not everything was run on a press, and really like drawing digitally. Like a lot of people that I know that do it, they just prefer it. I color digitally and draw on traditional paper, and it really like very rarely do I get a job where they require you to do it digitally, because there's so many ways that you can mesh the two together nowadays. I like having the originals. It's also another source of income for artists that, draw digitally, they lose out on. Sometimes they do like these one-of-one prints now, which I know that market is still growing, but it's not as established as the traditional original art market yet. I like to draw on paper, but I've had to do both. But being versatile is really important if you're not like a really big name in the industry. To be able to do as much as possible helps you get more gigs that do different things.
Now, Tom, do you do any digital at all, or is everything physical?
You know what, the scope of talent that comes from my brain does not end up amounting to the beautiful art in any similarity what Ian creates. He's on a different level. I don't think I'll ever be at that capacity. The type of art, if you will, that I've made in my past is audio based, and I don't know if you want to call it art, but yeah, that's the extent. I think I'm more of an outsider who can give an opinion on just the flow of it. Not as in depth as say one of the Joes could, but I think both Joes could probably chime in and give even more insight on the industry. But if I could, ideas just. Have I come up with a couple of treatments before? Yes. Have I gone this close from sending them to Ian? Yes.
Well, that was my next question. Ian, you and I we toyed with a idea. I know.
I'm like, where did you go?
They toured with Motley Crue, don't you remember? It was in 1986.
I'm like, where was I?
we toyed with an idea for quite some time. We won't get into it on air, but that idea is still there. It's still on the dartboard. Jamie and I talk about it every so often. You would bring it up. How does an idea come from being an idea to actually on the paper to, okay, let's get it done? What is the process for that?
It's a long answer to a question, and the most important, I think, is the start, and it's really to commit to do the work. Like there's so much work involved. It's a very laborious process, but if you don't decide that no matter what I'm doing this, it's never going to get done. So I think that's the kicker. Like everybody that I know has ideas. Like people always come up to your booth and say like, I've got an idea for a graphic novel or a series of comics or whatever. My favorite professor from college was actually one of my writing professors, and he had a saying that he said the first day of class for every class, no matter if it was your senior capstone or freshman writing one, the only difference between a writer and everyone else is that a writer writes. And it really is as simple as that, because like there's so many ways to produce your own comic, fund your own comic, print your own comic now. I mean, the printer that I use has a minimum of 25 copies. So if you can, scrounge up about $150, you can print your first comic, like on your own. Like if you can draw it and get it together or work with an artist or whatever you need to do, if you can get those files to the printer, the dollars to print that thing is not cost prohibitive like it used to be when your minimums had to be 1,000 or 2,500 or 5,000.
Okay. All right. That was one of my questions.
And you can get more answers to questions like that at the Making Comics panel at Rhode Island Comic Con that I will be doing with Joe St. Pierre and Jeff McClellan. We did one at Colorado, and it was honestly one of my...
Who was that guy with you? He was kind of stupid.
Oh,
hey,
the guy with me. I how dare you speak of our other artist guests like that? I don't. No, but you were there for the intro on that one, and you sat with me at the Bob Hall.
I thought it was me. I thought I did it with you, and then you did with Bob Hall.
Was it that way? I
was making fun of myself, Ian.
Okay, all right.
I was not making fun of Mr. Bob Hall, not at all. I was making fun of myself.
Okay.
How to make comics was with me and you.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Comic book legend.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and it was honestly like one of my favorite panels because it had all young and beginning artists that were in attendance, and there were a few other folks, but like they all asked questions, they were all into it, and then they all like came by the booth afterwards and had more questions, and like. And some of them I've corresponded with via email with, telling them like, here's a printer you can get quotes from, or like, here's a place where you can get photo reference, or, when they've asked questions, I'm more than happy to help artists, get going, because it's hard. It's a hard job.
Okay. What are some of the artists that we are going to have at RICC this year, Ian?
I mean, for a show that is mostly known for having the media guests, we've got some really good artists this year. Like between award-winning artists like Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, who write and draw. They've done Harley Quinn, Jonah Hex, Power Girl. They did books going back for years. Like Jimmy was an inker on the Kevin Smith run of Daredevil. He inked Joe St. Pierre on some books, who will also be there. We have Jay Lee, who was an Eisner Award-winning artist, and he worked on the Dark Tower stuff for the Stephen King comics. If you're looking to bring like a first appearance book that's been hot lately, the first new Black Widow book was in the Inhumans run. Tom, do you remember what number it was? I don't know.
Inhumans 5.
There you go.
The book that Jay Lee did with Paul Jenkins.
Yeah.
First appearance of Yelena. I think I probably butchered her name. Ollie, how you doing?
Hey, Ollie.
But so if you want to get that signed, and if you want to get books signed and say you're a fan of slabs, don't forget CBCS, one of our great sponsors for Rhode Island Comic Con and the Angry Geeks, will have witnesses available, yours truly included, who can witness signatures for you in the event you want to get your book slabbed as a keepsake from the show, or you're a collector who likes getting slabs.
Now, Ian, how do you feel about that? We never talked about that.
I do not collect slabbed comics. I will put it that way. Just because I'm a reader first. That's
okay.
Me. I'm not a guy that collects for resale. And nowadays, if you do, that's the way you absolutely should go.
Yeah, I have a few that were gifts. I mean. Here I am. Jamie and I, our sponsor is Greater, but Donald says, "What do you mean by slab?" Tom, explain it. The only way I can explain it is getting up, walking across the geek layer, and holding a couple up. How would you?
Want me to go grab one? Hold on, kids. Hold on.
While you do that, we're going to take a quick 30-second break for one of our sponsors, and we will be right back. More with Ian Chase Nichols and Tom Novak here on the Angry Geek Show. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Angry Geek Show. Brought to you by CH Square Collectibles, Comics Collectibles, and more. Magic the Gathering every Friday at 6 p.m. Located at 39 Wedgewood Drive, Suite 232, Jewett City. Comics, sports card, autographs, online sales. CH Square Collectibles, proud sponsor of the Angry Geek Show.
And we're back. See, that was a quick 30 seconds. Look at that.
Right?
All right. So, Tom, show a slab, please. Because I got
Okay,
3 of them
so
over there on the spinner.
For the fan who was curious, what did I mean by slab? We're talking about one of these. So this is a slab, plastic. It's a graded comic. This one in particular is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man #1, signed by Adam Kubert. It's got what's a yellow label. So when you get a book witnessed or verified through CBCS, you can get a yellow label where they also will, they'll specify whether it's been witnessed on a given day at a show, the date, and then the talent, or in this case, how I just said it reverse, the talent and then the date. And yes, you can get slab books at Alternate Universe, one of our other great sponsors. Now, I am a fan of comics. I like both to read comics. I collect them. I've got the numerous long boxes. But you know what? I like having books that, are the keepsake where, hey, I got this book signed by, some great talent. Maybe I want to put it on the wall. Maybe I want to put it with some other ones. Some people dig them and they want to sell them and make a little profit. More power to you. The hobby is about fun. If you're having fun with it, that's the key.
I totally agree.
I agree with that in the same way. I do have my toy collection as well. I do have some toys out of the package. I have some toys in the package. Those of you that actually visited the Geek Lair, I would never forget Jamie's first reaction when she walked in. She said, "Oh my God, I am in a store." Statues are out of the package, and depending on the toy, I would buy 2. One to take out and play with, and one to keep away. My comics, I just can't bring myself to grade them. Like I said, I do have them. They're in my collection as gifts, but I can't do it. I need to open, especially my older ones, that when I go out hunting. What, Tom? You want to come hunting with me? Ian,
I do.
Yeah, and I have to open up the comic. I have to get that smell. I have to.
That's what, because you're having fun with it. Wednesday when I go to my LCS, I'll buy two copies. If it's a book that I really dig, whether it be a standard or a variant cover, maybe I want to send one in and get it graded. Cool. Maybe I just really dig the art and I just want to have a reader and a copy to store away. The hobby is about enjoying yourself. If you're not enjoying yourself, you have to ask yourself, why are you bothering? So that's the
exactly
thing.
It's like,
so, Jamie, I have to ask, when you went to the very nice list. I'm proud of you. Actually have Marvel books. Proud of you.
A lot of money.
He has to put those up on purpose because
Well, Jamie, when you were in there, did he say hands in pockets, no touching?
No, he was good. He fully trusted me to be in there, which was awesome. I did threaten to open a couple things a couple times, but I have to say, like, when Lou is hunting, it's pretty adorable. He's like a little kid, and he's just going through his little fingers in the boxes. And I'm like, how do you even know what you're looking for? Like, but he knows. He has a radar.
And it's usually too when Jamie and I are out, it's like I'll tell her, okay, I have this much money to spend, and she'll be like, you don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't. I'm like, but it's beautiful. You don't need it. I'll call Rose.
You don't need it, but it brings us joy in some minuscule fashion.
Dude,
and life's too short.
He ends up finding things that he really needs. So, and I don't tell him not to buy those. It's just making sure he doesn't overspend his budget before he finds what he really wants.
Yeah, she's a good sister at that. She will be like, no. At the last Rhode Island Comic Con, 2019, remember when I was on the scooter?
On the wheel.
There was on wheels.
Lightning Queen over there.
There was this beautiful, it was just amazing, this Superman Christopher Reeve statue. I fell in love with it, and every time we were headed to a panel room, we would walk by the well, Jamie was walking, I was scooting around, and we would stop, and I would just stare, and she would just go, "You don't need it. Come on," because I was coming home with it. But she talked me down. She talked me down many times because this thing was just a mere object.
You were the one. You even said like, "Oh, I don't even have room for it. Where would I put it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you don't need it."
I certainly would have made room for that because, wow, just for sure. Joe McDonald comes in with a comment. Jamie, you want to get that one?
Yeah, he says, I think I have less than a half dozen slabbed books, mostly gifted. Currently waiting on my slab JLA Jam book, which most of you have seen.
I want to see that when that's finalized, Joe. I've been wondering about that bad boy. I really have.
And Michael J comes in, and Michael says, tabletop RPGs and accessories are his money hole.
Okay, in the name of full disclosure, I will be the guy who goes, okay, so I got I have 6 boxes over there of graded books. It's pretty fun. I like it. But at the same time, I got 15 long boxes in the other room. So, I mean, it's about fun. Are you enjoying yourself? Yes. If not, then you might need to re-examine your options.
I think that collecting anything that makes it fun keeps you young, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And I enjoy my entire life was surrounded by men and women in capes and fantasy stories, and that's just me. It's who I am. It's how people identify me. How I identify myself. I don't do anything else but this and flamboyant characters. And I think that's it's just me. It's what keeps me happy.
The flamboyant characters is fairly new for you too.
Oh, you mean talking about cosplay? Yeah, kind of. But I got to be honest with you.
I'm not talking about your wrestling though. Like that was you had a time in between where you were just kind of
just doing this thing
for you.
Yeah, kind of. But I would have to say we're getting off topic here. But because of that, I would have to say Raymond Ramos and you were a big influence on me doing that. So I mean, and I've actually taken the Macho Man stuff out of storage and wearing it. You were a big influence, and
this dog tonight is like.
Yeah, I know. I hear the dog.
Can you hear him? Oh.
Yo, we hear Nero. But Jamie, no, you
everyone on the internet hears the dog, Jamie.
He hasn't thrown the hissy fit yet, but he keeps bringing his ball over to me and dropping it in my lap.
The gentleman in Portugal who popped in, he's like, "What? There's a dog?"
Jamie, read Kevin's comment, please.
Is it because you can't say the second word?
And
look, Doc, I just can't do it. Never learned to speak good.
The proliferation of trade paperbacks have enabled the graded comic book industry. Just wait and you'll be able to read the story in one shot.
He's not wrong. Books are readily available. Doesn't matter the format. It's how you choose to digest it. If you want to appreciate the art in some capacity where it's encased, rock on. You want to be able to crack it up, open, and take it with you on your train ride into work? Awesome. But if you're enjoying it, that's the key thing. If you're seeing it on a tablet and that's how you get it, awesome. It's really up to the consumer and how you consume it.
Oh, fair enough. That's a good valid point. Yes. Ian, what kind of projects do you have coming out?
Coming out. It always ends up that like what I'm working on right now, I can't really talk about too much, but it's like what's literally like 2 feet over here. It's like, they're like, no, you can't talk about it. But like I said, I have the stuff that has come out. I am working on more Acts of Helena stories. The second issue is a giant, double-sized issue called The Land of Monsters. And it's basically because like when I get done with all the work I have to do and it's late at night, I can still sit there and draw monsters and like all kinds of fun stuff when, you've got one bloodshot eye after putting in an 18-hour day and you're just like, ooh, monsters. And you're still drawing and sitting at the table. And I've been talking to another one of the guests that's at the show, Matt Smith, who's going to do a cover for me. And he's been doing the Hellboy stuff. He's doing the covers. He did Midnight at Glasgow Station. He's done all kinds of stuff for Dark Horse. And he has his own book called Barbarian Lord, which is just terrific. I'm really happy he's able to come to the show this year. I first met him years ago at the Boston, I think he was at the Zine Fair, which was what Mice was before it was Mice in Boston, the Independent Comics Expo. And he's just done amazing stuff and continued to make new books. And Craig Rousseau, who does Young Hellboy, is going to be there too. And I keep bugging him about trying to get him to do a drawing for me. We'll see if that can come through. And, he's done the Young Hellboy stuff right now. He's got a Red Sonja series he just did. He's done Perhapanauts, Batman Beyond, just another group of artists that I'm excited to hang out with. And some of these folks that I still haven't seen in 2 years because we had that period with no shows. And I'm only just now getting to see some people in person again, which I'm really excited to do. And Tom is one of them. I have X-Men questions for Tom when I see him in person.
I'll be at your table Friday afternoon. Don't worry, we'll go through it.
Excellent.
I expect a drawing of Havoc as payment.
Excellent. I can do that.
It's
the classic Havoc or the 90s Havoc with the big jacket?
We don't talk about when he was a government stooge.
Okay, all right.
It's Havoc, black and white. Come on, get with the program, man.
The Neil Adams. You got it.
Speaking of artists that we've got this year, Lou, we are really, really lucky because we've got some really awesome artists that are actually local to the greater New England area that have been putting out some fantastic books. Case in point, Joe Schmalke, Rich Woodall, and their Black Caravan imprint from Scout Comics. If you're not familiar with these gentlemen, you've got to check out their stuff. It's available at shops across the country, and they're going to be at Rhode Island we're at 18 days. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, folks, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, Electric Black is
the size of
something else.
A watcher's head.
You have to tilt your head up and then lean it, and then you're good.
Yeah, well then all the rolls come out, Jamie. We're not all skinny like you.
Stop.
Electric Black is cool stuff. Joe is just a great cat. Rich Woodall, another great cat. The independent books to me, is where the scene is at. And this is kind of how Ian and I met, because the independent artists are tomorrow's legends. That's how I always looked at it. Hi, Nero.
Speaking of independent artists, there's Nero.
Yeah.
There's Nero. I always looked at comic book artists just like wrestlers. Today's independents are tomorrow's legends. You don't know what you're going to have. Hold on one second. We have a quick comment from Donald. Donald wants to know, Ian and Tom, well, what is your favorite comic? Excuse me. Ian, why don't you go first? What is your favorite comic?
The next one.
Oh,
okay.
Clever, Ian. Clever. Ian just became a new James Bond villain right there. My real question for you, Donald, because that's a pretty broad question. Do you mean specific title, or do you mean certain title and issue?
Ooh.
Because, again, pretty broad question.
Very Edward Nigma of you. Yes. So,
okay,
as
fine.
we're...
All right. So, title. All right. X-Men.
Of course.
And then, okay, title and issue. All right. Title and issue, Wolverine 75 with Adam Kubert and Larry Hama. And then Giant Size X-Men 1.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice. Ian, I'm going hunting. I'm out there looking for something. What do you want me to find?
Let's say, are we out hunting together? Is that the scenario we're painting here? We're out looking at Rhode Island, or am I sending you on a mission?
You're sending me on a mission.
Fan fiction here.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
fan
Well, I'm
fiction. You're sending me. You know that Rose and I are going flea marketing, tag sailing. You know I'm going hunting. I talked to you the night before, and you're like, on your travels, you're out hunting. Look for this. What is that you want me to find?
for stuff that to bring with you to Rhode Island Comic Con that you're hunting for. I mean, with Jay Lee, we talked about the Inhuman series, which issue 9 was not the first appearance, but it was my favorite issue. It was a story about
Okay.
Triton and a young woman and like a shipwreck and stuff. And Paul Jenkins wrote a very emotional script, and it was a really good single issue from that series. With Keith Williams is going to be there, who's mostly known as an inker, but he also penciled and inked the Phantom strip for a long time. He inked the Action Comics that John Byrne penciled for DC. And there's an issue with the Spectre that actually I think is a great illustration as to what Superman finally sees when he is not all powerful and able to fix every problem without giving away the plot to a 30-year-old comic. It's a really great issue. There's also with Pat Broderick, who's going to be there. He's got the Captain Marvel issues that he did that I think are terrific. And he also is the co-creator of Tim Drake, character people might have heard of for DC Comics. So those Batman Year 3 issues, you sometimes those get stuck in the dollar bins. You see them with those great George Perez covers. You see him floating around there. Sam De La Rosa will be there, and he's inked a ton of Spider-Man and Venom stuff. And Joe St. Pierre, also like a Venom guy who did Venom and Wolverine, which I know when Tom and I were kids, along with those Fatal Attractions books, those Venom, Wolverine, Tooth and Claw miniseries books, you could trade those on the playground for anything. They were like the trump card. You could trade them for anything. And you could get like whole packs of X-Men trading cards for that comic.
You're not
Joe
wrong.
St. Pierre's hair is kind of like Venom.
Now, Ian, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Pat Broderick also have a stint on the Doom 2099 book?
Oh, of course, yeah. He was the main artist for a long time.
That book, that's another one of those niche books that came back from the 90s that people are like, I forgot I love this as much as I do. So, I mean, another great opportunity for fans to meet the people who help bring those characters to life that they love.
Absolutely. And Joe did Spidey 2099, and I actually think Jimmy inked some 2099, like Fantastic Four or something.
I think he didn't he do Jimmy do the Punisher?
If there's a Marvel book, there's a 99.9% chance Jimmy Palmiotti inked it.
Yeah.
Yes. Tom, I am. Okay, I'm sorry, Ian. What were you going to say?
Oh no, but we talked about like the Kevin Smith Daredevil run. You can bring it on Friday and get it signed by Kevin and Jimmy. And Amanda Connor did tons and tons of books for DC in the 2000s between the JSA relaunch that they did, the Secret Files stuff with the beautiful Adam Hughes covers. You can see those go for a little more money, but they're quality stuff. So she did a book for Terra. I'm trying to remember the book. They've
Jimmy
done a bunch.
Amanda, if you want to, if you're an adult, this is a more mature title.
Do not say the pro. Do not say the pro.
That was going to be one of them, but wow, thanks for stealing my thunder. The other one was going to be Painkiller Jane.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, I wish for the life of me that Amanda drew a Tigra one day. We were at this. We were working, and we were supposed to be working, but we were playing the DC Comics Nero. We were playing the DC Comics version of D&D back in the late 80s and 87, and we were sitting at the Dream Factory. We were playing that, and Amanda drew Tigra from the Avengers, Marvel Comics. And she had it on a piece of paper, and she crumbled it up. And then I said, "Hey, Emma, can I have that?" She goes, "Yeah, sure." And I lost it. I don't know where it is, but imagine if I had that from a young Amanda Connor still.
Well, speaking of young Amanda Connor, you guys really want to know this little bit of a comic knowledge?
I would have gave it back to her, of course. I mean, because I talk about that all the time whenever I see her, and I would have said here. And the last time that I saw her and Jimmy both was at the very last Boston Comic Con, or the last time she was at Boston Comic Con. And I walked over, and I had a Harley Quinn. I wanted her to sign. She looks up and she sees me. She goes, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" I said, "I want you to sign this." And I had an all-star Western for Jimmy to sign. Now, I never met Jimmy prior, and Amanda and I were just catching up from, all the years. And I look over, and Jimmy actually sketched Jonah on the cover for me. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "You're a friend of my wife's. Don't worry about it. Here." He
That's
just
Jimmy
gave it
for
to
you.
me.
That Jimmy
Yeah.
will do right by people in that capacity. But anyone who wants to go meet Amanda, who's a fan of comics in general and other talent in the industry, a lot of people don't know this, but does anyone remember the Electra series from Bill Sienkiewicz back in the 80s?
Yeah, she might. Oh, never mind. I ain't gonna say it.
Amanda was Bill's assistant. So Electra, when you saw Electra on the cover, that was Amanda. She modeled
I was
for that.
good. I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to steal your thunder twice in a row.
You're already
That's what
damage
Luke
is done.
does.
My watcher-sized forehead's gonna remember that.
I was close. Ian, with some of your books that are out right now, Iron Face and the Axe of Hela, my God, I gotta drink something. Sorry for the mispronunciation. How many copies of each are you going to have at the table? And will you be willing? Yes. How about commissions? Are they open for Rhode Island? And what is your lead time for your commissions?
I generally don't have commissions available from home just because I have trouble prioritizing them with my schedule and everything else. I will open the list, as soon as the show opens.
Are they limited capacity then? Are they limited of what you're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I generally do, in a day, I can probably do 6 full figures, and a few busts, it just depends on what people order as to how many I can get done. And I try to have a bunch pre-done. I'll have like some like pre-done sketch covers, like the ones like.
One second. Here you go. Why don't you show that up?
Yeah, like sketch covers, and I'll have like probably some like some Red Sonja ones. I got some more blanks of those to do with the show to go with the cover.
That is just amazing. Now, can you hold that Red Sonja back up, please?
Oh, sure.
Now, for those of you interested, I've seen this book in person. Jamie has seen this book in person. That is absolutely beautiful. I'd stop by, get that book from Ian, have him sign it, and once again, mention Angry Geeks, get a free smile with that because it is just a beautiful cover. Aviva says, Ian, Mark has a plan for a commission. He will be seeing you on Friday.
That's great. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. I haven't seen you guys since, forever.
That is something I want to say too. Amanda says that looks gorgeous. Amanda, I'm telling you, it is a gorgeous book. And Donald says, Ian, he will be by Friday as well. Look at that. Your list is already getting piled up. I'm going to say that Rhode Island Comic Con is going to be a family reunion as sorts. I mean, we had a small one kind of at Colorado Springs, but I think Rhode Island is going to be more because more of the ARE family is going to be there.
Like everybody's going to be there.
Yeah, more of the ARE
is going to be there.
Yeah,
I mean, Kevin Smith is even arranging for us to open a movies that same Friday. So if you want to try a movie McMuffin, log on to the Rhode Island Comic Con Facebook page for details and how you can get your tickets to movies and get a quality meal before you go check out Kevin's panel, which is Friday night. And if you want to get a ticket to that, you need to get a separate ticket, which they are available. Details are on the website if you want to go join Kevin for his Q&A on Friday night.
And I don't think they've released it yet. They haven't, but I will tell you that Craig Rousseau did the exclusive art for the print, the Kevin Smith print, as well as the badge, and they're gorgeous. So
No,
you know,
they haven't released much yet.
if you go to the event and you get those items, be sure to swing by and have Craig sign them down in Artist Alley. He did a really terrific job on them.
And
Michael,
for anyone who's not been to the show before, please make sure you go through Artist Alley a couple times, because our independent all-stars really are the backbone of the show. I mean, case in point, you have new artists like Amanda Dufries, who's another New England-based artist, and she's already got 3 covers that she's done for Aftershock Comics: Chicken Devil #1, Baby Teeth #20, and Bunny Mask #1. All available. She'll have copies of them all weekend at Rhode Island Comic Con. Just like Ian, she's another local comic creator and an artist who wants to share her craft with the world. So if you have the opportunity to take your time through Artist Alley, you're going to thank me.
And in addition to the artists, there's going to be writers there too. You know, obviously Jimmy's written Jonah Hex and tons of other books, but Jeff McClellan, who writes The Tick, and he's done a myriad of other projects like Fubar that was on the New York Times bestseller list. You also have Ben Goldsmith, who's written stuff for Source Point Press, another local guy. You know, our one of my buddies, Jay Kennedy, writes and draws his own stuff. He'll be there. He's got, you know, new issues coming out all the time. I mean, you know, and you have just a ton of we've got a collection of inkers that I don't think I've seen at a show before, with Scott Hanna, who's inked, you know, all the John Romita Jr. Spider-Man basically, and
Robin
Walt Simonson Avengers, you know, Keith, yeah, we mentioned Keith earlier, Keith Williams, Scott Hanna, Sandra Rosa.
Brett Breeding too.
Brett Breeding.
So if you like the death of Superman, you're going to want to get the opportunity to meet Brett Breeding, because he can tell you what it was like working behind the scenes in killing the Man of Steel. Not many people can say that they had a part in the death of Superman.
Just
Jamie
don't
would
go
like
up
to
to
say
him
she's
and
partially
say,
responsible for killing Superman because she's tired of hearing people talk about him, but that's a different story.
And he also
just
did he did the West Coast Avengers miniseries, the famous one with Hawkeye on the cover too. That was a great one.
Yeah, Aviva, we did mention Chris in the beginning. We mentioned Mr. Campana in the very beginning. Did we or did we not? Or was that a private conversation?
I think there was a private conversation.
It was a private conversation where we mentioned Mr. Masters of the Universe, the one, the only, Mr. Moon Knight, Mr. Chris Campana.
Chris Campana is another great artist who's been with us before and is returning, and we're grateful to have him back. Of course, he, a couple years back, did a variant for us from the Ghostbusters Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover for IDW, which, if you don't have that book, you may, don't hold me to this, you may be able to find it at the Rhode Island Comic Con fan store outside the main vendor hall.
Very,
don't
very
hold me
limited.
that. There's a 50-50 shot in that. Or you can find it alternate universe at their 2 Connecticut locations. Milford
and New Haven.
And Krista does, in addition to all his work for hire stuff, he publishes his own books, and his book Parker Reef is, I would describe it as an important work in this group of independent generations, like this class. And you know, if you haven't checked it out or picked it up, that's a book that, you know, resides on this shelf with like all the fancy books for me. It does.
I supported the book. I supported the Kickstarters. And I cannot bring myself to read that book. And I talked to Chris about it many times. I just I just can't do it, because at the same time that book was created, something went on with me. Is when my dad passed away as well, and I can't do it. I can't read that book. I love Chris to death, and I did support both the Kickstarters, but it's just pretty. Yeah,
it's a heavy book. It is.
Yeah,
a heavy book, but its result and the fact it brings people together is, you know, more than what the industry could provide beforehand, and what is provided now shows how close knit of a community this community really is. So.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And he's done Chosen, and he's done a myriad of other books. He's got a new sketchbook coming. He's a busy man.
Yes, he's a very busy man. Ian, before we wrap up, please tell everyone where they can find you on the social media, where they can find your body of work, where they can buy your books if for some reason they cannot go to any convention. Where could they get your books? Where could they find it? Where could they read your read and see your creations?
After Rhode Island, I'll be putting my books up on my store on encnichols.com. You can read the first issue of Acts of Helena for free on fatcatfunnies.com. It is not an all ages book, but it's a lot of fun and I really enjoy doing it. And I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those other things. It's either Ian C. Nichols or Ian Chase Nichols, depending on what was available. On Instagram, it's Ian Chase Nichols. For some reason, people take the names. It's how it goes. There's more than one of me out there somewhere, I guess. But yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. Tom, you guys, it's going to be fun to see you in person. And hopefully amongst the busyness that we get 2 minutes to just say hello and tell you that I miss you guys.
You know what? It's going to be a great time. It's going to be the biggest party in the smallest state. So don't miss your opportunity to take part in one of the biggest shows, if not the biggest show on all the East Coast.
There you go. Jamie, where can they find you and I each and every week?
You can find us at theangrygeekshow.com or on Facebook and Instagram at The Angry Geeks.
And that's all we have for this week. And please tune in next week as we bring you some more of our journey to the road to Rhode Island Comic Con. I'm Lewis. That's Jamie. We are the Angry Geeks. She is one hot angel. I'm one cool devil. We'll see you guys next week. Be safe, Rhode Island.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.